Some of the real big dogs in college football want Noah Thomas, but Noah Thomas wanting Baylor, not as crazy as you think. Let's get Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. Appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day. I know it's been a fun week coming off the bowl game, albeit a loss, but we're looking ahead. We're looking ahead at who's Baylor's crown jewel could be in this transfer portal and why it's actually a perfect marriage. Plus, we've heard a lot about Cam Scabo this week, but does Baylor have the next Cam Scabo? I kind of think so. And the schedule for 2025 has now been finalized as of yesterday. Let's take a look at those challenges for Baylor. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Excuse me. I'm still battling through the sickness here, but as you can see, I'm at home base. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, of course, I know I have plenty of people that just listen. That's okay. You don't have to see my beautiful mug, which earned me a new nickname this week from some fans. But thank you guys again for tuning in. It's been an awesome month plus on this channel, and really an awesome year. I'm including 2024. I'm not just saying the first 2 days of 2025. But let's look at, now that Baylor has lost and is out of the bowl season and their season is over, it's over for games. Even though this season is over for games, it's not over for Baylor football and trying to improve this team, because I think we all understand that there's going to be some expectations for next year. And you could be in a weird scenario where Baylor was not ranked all of this year, and I don't think they really deserve to be at any point, but you are looking at a scenario where they're not ranked at all in 2024, and they could sneak into that top 25 rankings for the 2025 preseason. Like, there's going to be some expectations for this team, but they still have some holes they need to fix. You know, yesterday I went through specifically defensive backs, cornerback, and what they need to fill there. But there are still some small pieces that need to be fixed as well on the offensive side of the ball. We said going into this portal season, it was receiver on the offensive side. They've gone out and they went and got Kobe Prentice from Alabama, who I think is going to be a good fit here. His numbers kind of dipped at Alabama the last 2 years. This past year, he was injured for most of the season, but I think that kid's got a ton of potential. Now, the thing is, he's probably going to play in the slot. You lose a couple of those guys from this year. Monterey Baldwin went through senior day festivities. It's something you got to check in terms of if he's got another year at his disposal. But Kobe Prentice is going to have a lot of Monterey Baldwin in him. But you need kind of an outside guy. You need that classic X receiver who is going to win on the outside, can be a deep ball threat, contested ball guy, the way Denzel Mims was for you in 2019, the way Tyquan Thornton was for you in 2021. To just take a look at the last few, really good seasons for Baylor football, you had that guy. And you do have the luxury of still having Josh Cameron, who's coming off a tremendous year. But Josh Cameron won't be able to do it by himself. And he will be a great compliment for someone, and someone will be a great compliment to him on the outside. Whether you see Josh Cameron as the X, that's fine. Then you need a good Y. Or if you see him as the Y, which is more what I see him, then you need a really talented X to really complete this offense. And that's where Noah Thomas comes in. Noah Thomas just entered the transfer portal for Texas A&M, and this kid is a stud. All right. Like, he comes into the portal late, and he might be one of the most sought after portal guys at his position at wide receiver. It was kind of shocking. In fact, the A&M people were not expecting Noah Thomas to enter into the portal. But here you have a former four-star guy, Houston area, League City, great place, Clear Springs High School. And he was part of that great A&M class of one of those great A&M classes. 22 was the best. He came out in 21, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe he's 22. Anyway, he's played 3 years at A&M, so that would make sense that it was to be 22. And you look at the numbers for him, and they just got better each year. And, I mean, not just better, but, this year, 39 catches, 574 yards, 8 touchdowns. The year before, 29 catches for 359 and 5 touchdowns. Freshman year in 22, 5 for 51 and 2 touchdowns. So you look at that in reverse order, because I did it in the dumb way. And this kid is ready for a real breakout season. 39 for 574 and 8 touchdowns in the SEC. That's a pretty good year, right? This kid is ready for a breakout season. And he has just all the makings of that classic, awesome Tyquan Thornton, Denzel Mims, Corey Coleman, Kendall Wright kind of guy. 6'6" and 200 pounds. Boy, anyone in the country can use a guy like that. And that's kind of the bad part of this. The good news, bad news. Good news is Baylor could really use a kid like this for next year's offense. The bad news is so can everybody else. And On3 put out a story shortly after Noah Thomas went into the portal for some good landing spots for him. Not necessarily, hey, here are the guys that are interested, but have put out some offers, but here are the programs he would fit well at. And those 3 that they named were Miami, Georgia, and the Texas Longhorns. So I know there are some of you Baylor fans and some of you fans who are tuning in that are not fans of Baylor that are saying, well, all right, that's it. It's over. Once those names are dropped in there, that's done. End of story. But hear me out, please. Because Noah Thomas did have Baylor in his top 5 when he committed to A&M. And look, Jimbo's a heck of a recruiter. Couldn't do much else, but boy, could he recruit. And once A&M came calling, that was probably it. But Baylor was up there because he's got Baylor ties. Okay? His great uncle played at Baylor. You might have heard of him. His name was Mike Singletary. All-American at Baylor. One of the 5 or 10 greatest linebackers ever to play the sport. Yeah, that's where the Baylor ties come in. Plus, I do want to bring in Andrew Stefaniak, who does the Locked On Aggies podcast, because he did a whole breakdown of Noah Thomas, which is excellent. Recommend checking that out if you have not heard it yet. But Noah Thomas said he said this about Noah Thomas, which I think really plays into Baylor's hands. Let's see what he had to say.
But I'm just telling y'all, Noah Thomas with a quarterback that is fully dialed, which hopefully, as we discussed the other day, is what Marcel Reed's going to be for this Texas A&M team next year. But, if you send Noah Thomas to a quarterback that's going to throw for 290 yards a game, I think he's very capable of getting near 1,000 yards.
May I raise you Sawyer Robertson? Let's look at the other teams they're talking about. Miami, Georgia, Texas. Texas probably got the quarterback. Arch Manning, probably the guy, right? But we haven't seen it for a full season. Who knows? They thought Garrett Gilbert was the guy. Georgia, 10 points in the Sugar Bowl with Gunnar Stockton. Against a team that really chokes in big bowl games? I don't know. Miami? Who the heck knows? Who knows? After Cam Ward, who knows? Sawyer Robertson, we do know. You want 290 yards? Sawyer Robertson can give you that in his sleep. He just threw for 445 and a loss, okay? He can do that week in, week out. Most times he doesn't have to because Baylor's got an awesome run game, which we're going to get to in the next segment. But you want a quarterback who can get you the football time and time again in an offense where it's begging to give you the football time and time again? This is not Connor Wegman we're talking about. Sawyer Robertson can be that guy for you, Noah Thomas. And Noah Thomas, you can be that guy for Baylor football. The Bears need a guy who can win on the outside and get in the end zone. Noah Thomas is that guy. He fits Baylor. Baylor fits him. It's a match made in heaven. Also, Baylor's got a damn good run game. So good, in fact, that it's drawing comparisons to the best running back in the country. At least I am. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but there's still time to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. When that first $5 bet wins. And what I love about FanDuel is there's so many different ways to win. All right. You're not just picking a winner or a loser. You can pick who's going to score the first touchdown, over under on touchdowns. There's so many ways that you can root for a fun, entertaining game and still win some money. It's so easy, I even win money. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Cam Scabo. You've heard it all week long, if not all season long, because really you should have been hearing it for a long time. But certainly anybody around sports this week or anywhere loosely associated with sports this week has heard about Cam Scabo. At least in the top 2 Cams in Big 12 football lore right now. At least in the top 2. I'll give him that. No, but seriously, Cam Scabo put out one of the great individual performances I've ever seen watching college football, and that goes back 20 years for me. It was incredible theater to watch that game. It was one of the best college football games I had ever seen until UT won it. And then it was just like, I want to forget the whole thing. But Cam Scabo put together this just insane performance where he was doing it obviously on the ground, through the air, and like throwing through the air. He throws a touchdown that gets them back in this game. I mean, the numbers on this were crazy. 30 carries for 143, a couple of touchdowns. He caught 8 balls for 99 yards. He throws a touchdown. It was just a miraculous performance. He catches a 2-point conversion in there, which doesn't show up in the box score, but it's huge. Like, he put the team on his back, and they were that close to knocking off Texas. And what Cam Scabo did for the nation was prove what the Big 12 is all about. All right. My dude is out there throwing up on the sidelines. And yet he comes back into this game and he's like Larry Zonka, just throwing guys off him. By the way, that's the second time I've thrown in a Larry Zonka reference while doing this podcast. But he looked like that, man. It was like he was a man amongst boys. No one could stop him. This vaunted Texas defensive front, which is great. I mean, Joe Tessitore would have you believe it's like the greatest defense ever to step on the field and that all 11 guys are going to be all pros in the NFL. That's what he'd have you believe. But it is pretty damn good. And Cam Scabo, just as the game wore on, he wore them down. Texas has been wearing teams out all season long. And Cam Scabo was doing it to them. He was tiring them out. It was awesome to watch. It was so incredible. And so now you've got it everywhere. I mean, Stephen A. Smith went on a 2-minute rant on ESPN yesterday about how great Cam Scabo is. And if and when he comes back for that 5th year, which I think he will, but I don't know. I have not checked into his draft status and whether he wants to or not. You will hear all kinds of hype next year about Cam Scabo being the best running back in America and certainly, therefore, getting some Heisman hype. And you know when you guys were kids and you'd like pass a McDonald's on the way home? You'd be like, Mom, can we get McDonald's? And she'd say, no, we have food at home. It's like the worst thing to hear ever. We're going to hear a lot about Cam Scabo next year and how great he is and how he's the best running back in the Big 12 and America, and he'll be a Heisman finalist if all goes right. But you, the Baylor fan, you can say, we have Cam Scabo at home. And while you might not have the best running back in America, you're going to have something pretty close to Cam Scabo in Bryson Washington. Okay? Because he already took the league by storm this year. He was probably the 3rd best back in the Big 12 behind Texas Tech's all-time leading rusher and Cam Scabo. And honestly, for a lot of this season, when you go in the game log, like Washington's numbers were not that far off from Scabo. Truly not. Now, Bryson Washington has had a game in college where he's played quarterback or punted like Cam Scabo has, but the numbers are not that far off. Now, you look at the total, Scabo, 1,700 yards on the ground, 21 touchdowns, almost 6 yards a carry, 5.8 on almost 300 carries. Bryson Washington, on the other hand, did have a 1,000-yard season on 175 carries for 12 touchdowns and 5.9 yards a carry. Cam, are you trying to tell me that Bryson Washington is better than Cam Scabo because he has 0.1 more yards per carry? No, I'm not saying that. But Scabo also played in 4 more games than Bryson Washington did. And when taking those 4 games into account, you have to, again, this is not how football works, but you take those 4 games out, you're subtracting 624 rushing yards, and he's only like 40 yards better than Bryson Washington. Bryson Washington's a redshirt freshman. Cam Scabo was figuring this out at Sacramento State. And like, look, awesome story. That's not taking away from Cam Scabo's career at all. But like, Bryson Washington could have a year like Cam Scabo just had next year. Like, that's not unreasonable. He's going to be the every down back for this Baylor team again. From week 1, he was banged up in the first few games and obviously plays, less than a quarter in the Texas Bowl. So I don't, take that game out of it. He's going to be the guy all season long. The thing that will detract from Bryson Washington's stats next year will be the fact that he is a damn good number 2 in Dawson Pendergrass. Cam Scabo did not. And there won't be a reliance on Bryson Washington in this offense the way it kind of was for Cam Scabo at times this year. But what I do find interesting is that, we had this debate. We talked about it after the all Big 12 teams came out. Both these guys, their quarterbacks had pretty similar seasons. Sawyer Robertson was better than Sam Leavitt, but they both threw about 25 touchdowns, 8 or less picks. Like, they had the similar completion percentage. They play a similar style. So Cam Scabo is more of a focal point in that Arizona State offense than Bryson Washington is for Baylor, but it's not that far off. And so again, the play style, they both run really hard, really physical, do not mind getting that contact. In fact, they had that report on Scabo during the game of like sometimes he cuts his runs short because he's getting out of the lane so that he can hit somebody. Like, Bryson Washington welcomes that kind of contact too. They're both just bowling balls of guys about the same size. Scabo 5'11", 215. Bryson Washington 6 foot 203. Like, people will see this headline and will scoff, and they think it's crazy because they've heard of Cam Scabo and they have not heard of Bryson Washington. And again, don't make this mistake. Cam Scabo had a better year than Bryson Washington. But when I tell you we have Cam Scabo at home, midway through next season, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Bryson Washington is a dude. He's young, and he's ready to take that next step. And year 2 with all these guys, with this offensive line, which did not gel till midway through this season, another year of that group, for the most part, intact, of Sawyer Robertson, another year of Jake Spavital, another year of that tandem of Bryson Washington, Dawson Pendergrass. He's going to put up those kinds of numbers, I'm telling you. And he's going to draw the attention, hopefully, that Cam Scabo did through the first 13 weeks of the season. And hopefully, Bryson Washington can get to the playoff and have somewhere near a game like Scabo just had. So yeah, Cam Scabo is great, and I'm a huge fan. Truly, I am. But we have Cam Scabo at home, and you're going to find that out next year. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below on YouTube, or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor if you're listening. Let me know what you think, as I don't think it's that crazy that Bryson Washington is going to have a season like Cam Scabo. But If you like it, like the video. If you don't like it, like the video. And let us know in the comments below how much you love it or hate it. Locked on Baylor is rolling on because speaking of home, we've got all the home games for the Baylor Bears next year. And boy, this is going to be an exciting slate. We'll take you through it next on Locked on Baylor. But first, you are going to hear from my pals at Rocket Money. Truly one of my favorite sponsors going on the network because I use it all the time. Let me ask you this. When you use Rocket Money, because I know you did, you listen to me a lot, did it help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or that you're paying for twice? Because that happened to me, okay? Stuff that I didn't want to use anymore, stuff that I was paying for twice. Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal finance assistant for you, okay? It is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and helps you lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, be it subscriptions, spending habits, and the goals you want to hit in 2025. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, and it saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving you, the member, up to $740 a year. Honestly, the subscription tracker, that was a huge one for me. Finding what subscriptions I wasn't using anymore, and so that I can save that money. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions, reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. We're on to 2025 now as I take this drink. On to 2025 after the loss in the Texas Bowl. And what is probably going to be a hype-filled season for the Baylor Bears. That's going to be building up from now until the end of August. I will certainly help in hyping that up. But we didn't find out until yesterday the full schedule because we were missing that little week 3. That just, scrubby little week 3 matchup against the Samford Bulldogs. Bobby Bowden's alma mater, if I'm not mistaken. That will be after 2 marquee games to open the year. Because this might shock some of you. But Baylor just played LSU, and their next football game, the next football game that Baylor's going to play in, is against Auburn at McLean. And I need y'all to get there. And then after that, so you face the SEC team, the name brand, the team with national championships in Auburn, a game you should be favored in. And then after that, you face a real team. You face a playoff team in SMU on the road at Ford Stadium. If there will be 40,000 people there if it sells out, that's going to be a hell of a matchup. Because SMU has heard it. I mean, we're going to talk about this throughout the whole summer. SMU's heard it all season long, how they, bought their way into the ACC, and that is funny, but they had a great year. And then they heard about how they weren't supposed to be in the playoff. And then after they lost in convincing fashion at Penn State, they heard how they shouldn't have been in the playoff. And this is going to be their opportunity to take on a Big 12 team with, maybe a number next to their name at that point in their home stadium. A team that they're competing against for recruiting and for coaches, they're going to be hyped up for that game. And that is going to be a ton of fun. But we have heard who Baylor's going to be playing at home in the Big 12 schedule. And guys, I got to say, it's really underwhelming in a way. Like the Big 12 is as great as it's ever been, I think. But here's where you get the downside of the expansion of the Big 12, and that's Baylor's home football slate. The home games they will have will be against Houston, Kansas State, Utah, UCF, and Arizona State. Look, some good matchups in there. But you're telling me that we're going to go through a whole season at McLean. This is where it's going to hit different. Going to go through a whole season at McLean with no TCU, no Tech, no Texas, no Oklahoma State, none of that. The only in-state team that you're playing at home this year is Houston, which almost doesn't even count. Who are they bringing with them? Not worried about selling out the away fan section in that one. So look, obviously Utah is going to have some real juice behind it, and maybe the Utes have turned it around going into next year, and maybe we'll see Cam Rising wheeled out there. Kansas State, solid team, good team. Imagine they'll have a good team next year, and the defending Big 12 champions will come into your house. That Arizona State game is going to be potentially, we don't know when it's going to be played. It could be week 4. That would suck. I hope it's in November. That could be the game of the year in the Big 12. Arizona State's the defending champs. They bring some of their big pieces back. Baylor's going to sneak up on some people, but they are well positioned to make a run at the Big 12 championship next year. And so that game could mean a ton, especially if it's towards the end of the season. I cannot wait for that kind of matchup. But those are your home games. It's again, not the most exciting slate that you'll ever get for home games in terms of just, those rivalries. You just miss those rivalries, man. Like, look, we all hate Utah, right? They're the villain of the Big 12. Arizona State's obviously a really good team and is on a hot one right now. Kansas State's always solid, but like there's no juice there. We want TCU coming into the place, Tech coming into the place. Like, you should have at least one of those on your home schedule every year. I'm sorry. Oklahoma State even. We have great matchups with Oklahoma State over the years. Had some great games with them. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer. But those first 2 games, that'll whet your appetite for the rest of the season. Baylor could have a hell of a season and start 0-2. I doubt it. I think they're a better team than Auburn. But that is going to be a really fun first 2 weeks of the season. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. What is the game you're looking forward to most? Please let me know down in the comments or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor, at me at Real Cam Stewart. And while you're here, if you're on YouTube, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're hitting new subscription numbers, milestones every day. And that's thanks in huge part and all part to you guys. You guys, the ones that are subscribing. I'm just sitting here making the content. That some days is okay. Anyway, thank you guys so much for making it your first listen today and every day. We will have some basketball because we got a big top 25 matchup that is making me wet my pants tomorrow at Iowa State at Hilton Coliseum. That's going to be a good one. We'll have a little bit more on that for you later today, Friday. Anyway, thanks for making it your first listen today and every day. We'll see you later on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.